In Boone County, a couple has been charged with child endangerment and possession of a controlled substance. Evan St. Clair and his wife Victoria faced these charges on May 28th, stemming from events that happened at their home on May 24th. Police say they confiscated a grocery bag of marijuana from the house and witnessed a toddler hanging outside a second-story window. Now, both Evan and Victoria have worked for the Iowa legislature, and they might still work there. Local 5's Emma Stroner has more.
On May 28th, Boone residents Evan and Victoria St. Clair were charged with child endangerment and marijuana possession. That stems from an incident Boone police say happened the Saturday before at their home.
According to court documents, someone called the police to report that they saw a toddler hanging outside of a second-story window. They went up to the house to ring the doorbell, but nobody answered. That's when they called the authorities.
When police got to the house, they say they were able to reach the St. Clairs. They say the inside of the house smelled like marijuana, and both Evan and Victoria seemed to be under the influence. While they spoke with the couple, an officer says he saw a naked toddler leaning out of a second-story window, putting toys on a roof overhang. Shortly after, the police say they saw a naked child running outside the back door. They asked Evan to give him any marijuana he had in his house. He returned with a grocery bag. On the Iowa legislature website, both of these St. Clairs are still listed. Evan St. Clair as the secretary of Senator Dave Sires and Victoria as a lobbyist for several clients around Iowa.
We spoke with Senator Dave Sires, who told us that Mr. St. Clair isn't getting paid and hasn't met with Sires since the session ended. We're currently unsure of St. Clair's exact employment.
We have team coverage of today's news, and we'll get to J.D. Snover in a bit. But first, let's get straight to Local 5's Emma Stroner, live outside the district's downtown Des Moines offices. Emma.
Yeah, Stephanie, we're learning some new information from Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They're saying Dr. Ian Roberts was found with $3,000, a loaded gun, and a knife when detained. Now, ICE officials are also saying he was charged with weapon possession in 2020 and given a final order of removal back in May of 2024. Now, DMPS did hold a news conference at 3 p.m. today. At the meeting, Board Chair Jackie Norris addresses new information, and it's unclear whether or not this is regarding what ICE had released.
There is new information that has been made public that we did not know, and we have not been able to verify as to whether that information is accurate.
Interim Superintendent Matthew Smith says protocols are in place and DMPS will be following up with more information when and if it becomes available to them. Now, we know the community has a lot of questions, and our team at Local 5 will be following the story and letting you know on air and online as soon as we hear more information. For now, live in Des Moines, Emma Stroner, Local 5 News.
Emma, thank you. And for those of you unfamiliar with Dr. Roberts, here's a look at his history before coming to Central Iowa. Roberts started at DMPS in 2023. Before Des Moines, he worked in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, St. Louis, and most recently, Erie, Pennsylvania. At DMPS, Dr. Roberts led the school district's Reimagining Education Plan, a 5-year plan to improve student outcomes outside of the classroom. His parents are immigrants from Guyana, and he grew up in New York City. Roberts also appeared in the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney, representing Guyana in the 800 meters. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's St. Paul office issued a statement about Dr. Roberts' detainment, calling it a wake-up call and questioning how he was hired.
We are learning more about the hiring process for former Des Moines Superintendent Ian Roberts, who was detained by immigration enforcement officers in late September and later transferred into federal custody on gun-related charges. Public records and application materials obtained by Local 5 reveal discrepancies in his resume, raising questions about how closely his credentials were vetted before the school board approved his contract. When Des Moines Public Schools announced Ian Roberts as its next superintendent in May of 2023, district leaders called it the result of a, quote, comprehensive national search. But emails and documents obtained by Local 5 show a more complicated picture. Roberts' application lists 2 doctoral degrees, one from Morgan State University in 2007 and another from Trident American University in 2021. The Morgan State degree was previously reported by Local 5 as incomplete. Those close to Roberts say he finished most coursework but never completed the dissertation. though a dissertation topic does appear on the resume submitted to the district. The board claims this discrepancy came because the consulting firm which helped hire Roberts provided the wrong resume to them at the time. Internal emails show staff noticed inconsistencies while preparing the announcement. One district communications leader wrote, quote, "It doesn't exactly align. I'm assuming what he wrote in his bio is correct. We can confirm when we talk with him." A representative from the PR firm hired to manage the rollout replied, quote, "I agree. We should go with what he has provided in his bio. Happy to make that change." Roberts himself also made edits to the press release, adding an accolade which has since been reported as non-existent and changing the wording of his doctorate. In an email, he wrote, quote, "I made 2 changes in paragraph 3, where I added George Washington University's DC Principal of the Year, and paragraph 5, where I changed the PhD to Ed.D. That edit reinforced the Morgan State claim. Now, Roberts is currently in federal custody, and his trial on those gun charges is set to begin in March. Des Moines Public Schools is also suing consulting firm JG Consulting, who they say played a major role in his hiring.
Police have arrested the man that caused a disturbance at the National Speech and Debate Tournament in downtown Des Moines today. 22-year-old Jaden Roccaforte is facing 2 charges: disorderly conduct, a simple misdemeanor, and possession of a controlled substance, a serious misdemeanor. He's being held in the Polk County Jail. Thousands of people were evacuated because of this disturbance. Local 5's Alex Fulton spoke with students startled by the frantic scene and shares new video taken right before the evacuation.
Events for the National Speech and Debate Tournament resumed at 5:15. That's roughly 2 hours after the EMC Expo Center was evacuated. One student I talked with said she saw a man go on stage during humorous interpretation finals. Almost immediately after, the person at the mic stand, either a student or judge, told everyone in the room to run and get out. A student watching the live stream of the event told me he saw the feed cut out all of a sudden. Everyone in the venue, whether they were in the room, watching the live feed, or just there, ran to find a hiding spot.
At the end of the day, I think this is less about NSDA itself and more about America as a whole and how these types of threats are becoming normalized.
I just think it's terrifying that this is a reality that students and people all around the world have to live with. This is one of the largest academic competitions, and we shouldn't have to be afraid that we're gonna, die.
Several students I talked with said once they got to safety, their first course of action was to text their parents. Remember, there are a lot of students and their coaches coming from quite a ways for this national tournament. Some of them in a panic texted, "I'm not ready to die," others simply saying that they were safe. Law enforcement did sweep the venue after the evacuation and did not find any other potential threats. I want to stress again that there were no injuries reported and no threats made in this incident. In downtown Des Moines, Alex Fulton, Local 5 News.
Iowa lawmakers proposed a bill that would set a statewide ordinance against camping on public property. Dozens of people showed up to speak in a Senate subcommittee meeting, with all but one in opposition, as our Connor O'Neill reports.
A bill filed in the Senate this week drew over 300 comments online and led this room Wednesday to be tightly cramped as lots of people spoke out against the legislation that says a person would not be able to use public property for sleeping, camping, or long-term shelter.
Homelessness looks different in rural areas versus urban areas, but these are individuals, these are families, they have nowhere to go, they deserve our help and not our shame.
If that person were to violate this policy, law enforcement would issue a warning, but if that person does not leave, they would be put in jail for up to 30 days and issued a fine up to $855. Opponents of the bill added it is not a crime to be homeless and more resources should be put toward providing housing and services.
You should have an area where you can go and camp or you can stay where you want. I'm just surprised. I'm shocked. $800 fines for people who really don't have any money or are down on their luck. We've got to think of something else.
This is the first time this session I have pleaded with colleagues. If we want to do something, let's work together in the intercession and come up with an Iowa solution. Please, let's not move it forward.
While those in favor argued this bill does not discriminate and is meant to create a consistent statewide policy.
I want to emphasize this is not intended to criminalize homelessness. The goal here is to move folks off the street and connect them with shelters and other supportive services.
We have to address campsites that may be in areas where it's disrupting businesses or disrupting other people's homes.
The bill also states counties could enforce its own ordinance to designate portions of public property for camping up to a year for people experiencing homelessness. Senator Westerich was the only person to vote in favor, leading the subcommittee to postpone the bill for now. From State Capitol, Connor O'Neill, Local 5 News.
A House subcommittee just passed the bill. Even though the Senate tabled it, it could become eligible for floor debate as soon as next week.
An Urbandale family is sharing an incredibly personal and painful part of their lives after the recent suicide of their teenage son, Miles.
And Miles was the victim of bullying that ultimately led to depression. Now, as Local 5's Megan McPherson reports, the people who loved Miles have a very important call to action.
Love Vermont, but it's the season of the 69.
For 15-year-old Miles Phipps, creating music was more than just a hobby.
But I just like to play the victim. I'll drink.
Miles' mother, Ashley.
This year he picked up guitar and he started writing music and he got it on Spotify.
It was his language, a way to share the parts of himself the world didn't always see.
He's always been different. He's always been himself.
But after Miles, a freshman at Urbandale High School, came out as transgender to his family earlier this year, they say those differences led to consistent bullying.
He started struggling with depression and fitting in, I think. And he told a teacher that he trusted that he wanted to go non-binary and use his middle name. And then after that, there was pretty severe bullying.
On November 4th, Miles died by suicide. His family believes bullying was a factor.
I lost my son over bullying. People not being accepting of things that are different.
But not the only one. Local 5 was contacted by an Urbandale parent who says their student was in one of Miles' classes. That parent claims the day before Miles died, a substitute teacher failed to use his correct pronouns. We reached out to Urbandale Community Schools to confirm what the parent told us. In response, the district said it couldn't comment on student or personnel-specific allegations, but a spokesperson did tell Local 5 the substitute teacher will no longer be allowed to teach in the district. Urbandale Schools also said staff are offering support to help students cope with Miles' death, and emphasized a dedication to, quote, cultivating a safe, caring, and supportive learning environment for all students and staff. In the aftermath of Miles' death, students who knew him and dozens of others took a stand against bullying, leaving class in the middle of the day to protest and share stories of their friend. As Miles' family continues to grieve, they say his story should be a call for compassion and for action.
I feel like it's my job now to be courageous and brave enough to make sure that everybody else understands that it's important to be brave and speak up, and it's okay to be unique and special.
In Des Moines, Megan McPherson, Local 5 News.
Help is available if you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide. You can call or text the number 988 anytime, and a trained crisis worker will respond.
High-level officials are pressuring soda brands like Coca-Cola to change their recipes to replace corn syrup with cane sugar. Local 5's J.D. Snover talked to an Iowa farm family who says not so fast.
President Donald Trump has recently taken to social media asking Coca-Cola to include cane sugar in their recipes instead of high fructose corn syrup. Now, with the price of corn dropping over the last few years, farmers say it's not a market they want to lose.
This is kind of our heart and soul.
A high-yield corn crop may sound like a good thing, but Iowa farmers like Joan and John Maxwell need to have somewhere to sell it to. And while they could probably find something else to do with it, it's not as easy as it sounds.
It takes a while to replace a market that is all of a sudden taken away. It's easier for us to grow a market than try to recover from an instance.
Just 2 to 4% of U.S. corn ends up as corn sweetener. But those who study the agricultural economy say taking away an existing market could lead to a further drop in corn prices, a commodity already on a downward trend.
The challenge here is we'll probably produce somewhere around 15.7 billion bushels of corn this year here in the U.S. And even with all the demand we've got right now, we're only going to use up about 15.3 billion bushels of corn. So we're already short about 400 million bushels worth of usage, and this would just add to that pile.
At this point, Coca-Cola has not made an official announcement on whether it will switch up or keep the current formula. In Des Moines, I'm JD Snover, Local 5 News.
Dr. Hart tells us other factors in the company's decision could be the price of importing the sugar.
ICE shared with us new claims about Robert, specifically his criminal record and immigration history.
The agency released this information on Friday, and I took a deeper look into the dates and details listed. Here's a full timeline according to ICE. The following timeline is according to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. In 1994, ICE says Roberts first entered the United States as a visitor for pleasure, using a B-2 non-immigrant visa. He left at an unknown time. 2 years later, in 1996, his first criminal charge appears as possession of narcotics with intent to sell them. He also was charged with possession of both forgery and forged instruments, meaning there were claims that he made a false document with intent to deceive. Then, in 1998, Roberts was charged with third-degree unauthorized use of a vehicle, though this was later dismissed in 1999. This is also the year when Roberts entered the U.S. 3 different times on an F-1 student visa. In 2000, he applied for employment authorization, and in September, he left and entered the U.S. both in the same month on this same visa. Going to 2001, Roberts applied for a green card. In the same year, his employment authorization expired. In 2003, his application for a green card was denied. Then, in 2004, his F-1 student visa expired. 8 years later, in 2012, he was convicted for a few different things in Maryland at the same time. This includes reckless driving, unsafe operation, and speeding. Moving ahead 6 years to 2018, Roberts applied 3 more times for a green card and was rejected every time. He also filed for employment authorization documents, which expired the next year in 2019. When he filed for these documents again, those would expire in 2020. Now, this is the year when his 4th and final green card application was declined. He also was charged in 2020 with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th degree weapon possession charges, but the 2nd degree charge was incomplete. During this year, he updated his address, but ICE does not say to where. He also received a notice to appear before an immigration judge. 2 years later, in 2022, Roberts was found guilty with unlawful possession of a firearm. Then, in 2024, he was given a final order of removal from the United States, and a Dallas immigration judge denied the motion to reopen his case in 2025. Last Friday, Roberts was detained by ICE, where they found a gun and fixed-blade hunting knife in his possession. On Wednesday, court documents show Roberts was charged as a, quote, illegal alien in possession of firearms. In the days after Roberts' detainment and the new information about him being revealed, members of the Des Moines School Board have faced some heat. But amid the controversy, the board is defending itself. The Associated Press on October 1st reported that Roberts had not completed one of the doctoral degrees he provided on his initial resume to JG Consulting. That was the firm tasked by the district to search for superintendent candidates. JG Consulting flagged the error, and the resume was revised to note that Roberts completed all but his doctoral dissertation, which is required to earn such a degree. In a statement to Local 5, the board claims it was, quote, a victim of deception by Dr. Roberts, one on a growing list that includes our students and teachers, our parents and community, our elected officials, and Iowa's Board of Educational Examiners, and others.
A central Iowa man is facing heavy backlash tonight from the Jewish community and many people online after he went to a bar on Halloween dressed as Adolf Hitler. Local 5's Emma Stroner talked to the bar the man attended and someone who was stunned to see the costume Halloween night.
Miss Kitty's was packed on Halloween night with people in all sorts of costumes, but one is gaining the attention of many in the community. There were plenty of costumes turning heads at the bar in Clive, but Donnie Gardner's is the one that has people talking more than 2 days later. Donnie Gardner went as Nazi leader Adolf Hitler for Halloween. Local 5 is choosing not to show photos of Gardner in costume to minimize the spread of hate images. Gardner's a local business owner. Local 5 got his phone number and sent him a text message about the costume so he could share his story, responding saying, quote, "Though very controversial, I do not idolize or worship the man or anything he did. I simply wore it as a costume for shock value." In one photo, Gardner is accompanied by two women, one identified as Jessie Rudin, a volunteer hockey club coach at Drake University. The university released a statement saying she's since been removed from that position. We reached out to Rudin Sunday afternoon for her perspective on the situation. At first, she sent Local 5 an email saying she's willing to speak with us, but when we replied to set up a time, we never got a reply. This video from inside the bar Halloween night is also making rounds online too, showing a customer asking staff about Gardner's costume. Kennedy Powers shot that video. She says she confronted the bar's owner about Gardner's Hitler costume.
I was just dumbstruck. I didn't believe what I was seeing.
Kennedy told Local 5 the owner was dismissive and that he wasn't going to do anything about the costume. We went to the bar to ask questions, and the bar's owner, EJ, agreed to do an interview.
She said, "You've got a Nazi in your bar. What are you going to do about it?" And I said, I just quickly said, "Nothing." She goes, "So you support Nazis?" And I said, "No."
EJ added Friday was busy, and in hindsight, he would have done things differently.
I would like to apologize to anybody who it offended. We should have done a better job.
EJ says ever since Gardner's costume went viral, he's faced threats.
And you said you are a little bit worried that you're going to lose your business?
I am. Yes, we'll do the best we can, and hopefully people understand that we messed up, and it won't ever happen again.
In Des Moines, Emma Stroner, Local 5 News.
Now, as for Gardner, he sent Local 5 a second statement saying in part, quote, "I am dreadfully sorry to anyone caught in the crosshairs and suffering from photos or interactions with me Friday night, as any and all hatred should be pointed out myself and myself only. I take full responsibility for the repercussions and will continue to face them head on." Now, the Jewish Federation of Greater Des Moines released a statement regarding this incident, saying it is, quote, "deeply disturbed that a bar patron in our community wore a Hitler costume on Halloween. Hitler is not a costume. This is not satire. It is anti-Semitism. Free speech is not a shield for minimizing hate. We expect our community's businesses and institutions to reject anti-Semitism clearly and immediately."
Travelers are sharing their experiences after a plane veered off the runway Saturday night at Des Moines International Airport. As Local 5's Emma Stroner reports, the incident also forced an airport shutdown and flight disruptions.
A Delta plane coming from Detroit into Des Moines sliding off the runway onto the pavement Saturday night from icy conditions, according to airport officials. 2 pilots, 2 flight attendants, and 54 passengers, all without injuries.
Just going down the landing strip, that's when the pilot hit a little bit of ice. And we just kept sliding.
Passenger Teresa Rose tells Local 5 her and other flyers didn't get off the plane until over an hour after the plane slid.
Once we found out that's what was going to happen, we landed at about 9:45 p.m. and we did not exit the plane until about 11 o'clock p.m. at night.
Rose says passengers were unaware at first of what had happened, but once they were told, buses came to pick them up. From there, she says driving home in the storm was scarier than the plane veering off. Sean Morgan was another flyer on the plane who says now he can't get his checked bag.
I have no idea when our bags will get delivered to us.
He says he was told the bags had to stay in place while the National Transportation Safety Board starts an investigation. Just about 24 hours after that plane slid off the runway, passengers and flyers are sharing their experiences with us now, and some are even saying this is causing ripple effects, delaying their flights or canceling them altogether. Charisse Creighton says her son's flight is in limbo now, telling Local 5 she's debating on having him wait another day before flying into Chicago.
8 a.m. to 2, and then it was 2 to 2:18, 2:18 to 2:30, and so now we don't know.
Another set of parents say their daughter's flight from Chicago has been delayed 3 times, and they tell us landing concerns were communicated to them. In Des Moines, Emma Stroner, Local 5 News.
Per the last update from airport officials, the National Transportation Safety Board will not be investigating and the plane won't be removed until their process is complete. The Federal Aviation Administration also reports that they will be investigating. We reached out to the airport for additional updates and have not yet heard back.